working in IT police and IT in health. So may I invite Ranjan sir on the dais, sir? And so give him a big welcome. Second speaker in the session is Dr. K. Ram, who is an IPS officer, who is additional director in Home Ministry, Government of India. And he is a doctorate in e-governance and growth, which is a very, very interesting area. And he's an alumni of National Defense College in Delhi. So he has served in northeast areas for almost a decade. So you can know the kind of experience he has both in e-governance and the security. He's optimal, he's a very, very interesting person to have on the stage in this session. So may I welcome Dr. Ram on the stage, sir. Sir, kindly come on the stage. Can I have an applause for him? And third and very important speaker is Ramandeep Singh, who is the head of Systems Engineering India and SAARC countries for Checkpoint Software. So may I invite Raman on the stage? Kindly welcome, Raman. So the format of the session is that we will invite Raman in the beginning, and he will present the technology angle in this whole issue of security, and we will have user feedback from both the senior government officials on the stage. So welcome to all, and I will hand over the session to Ranjan sir. Thank you so much.
Can you hear me? It's working, huh? Okay. Ravi, thank you very much. And as you can see, you know that the speaker list in this session is almost as sparse as the house. So, which is a welcome sign, which says that probably a lot of people already know about it. So they're not here, they're having tea and coffee outside, which helps the people on the dais too that no awkward questions will be asked. Now, you know, a lot has already been discussed, and this whole issue of security in the cyber sense, a lot of us are already seized of it, though we are often at a loss as to what to do to guard ourselves in securing ourselves in a cyber sense. We had the previous presentation in which we talked of cloud computing. I mean, you know, when your desktop or your laptop sitting at your home, if that is not secure, data can be stolen, then you can understand the psychological problem of people putting their data in a cloud, which is not even with them, and within the physical security confines of their homes. And therefore, the problem is a serious one. The problem is one where the common person, though he or she may know how to work on MS Office, do their normal work, do internet searching, do a lot of e-governance, and transact a lot of their own business using the internet. But this whole issue of how to address security concerns is something that eludes many of us. And therefore, it's quite timely to devote a session on technology in security optimization, that whatever level you are, and whatever wherewithals you have, whatever knowledge you have, tools you have, software you have, if you have a sense of security as to what I need to do to make my organization, my data, my hardware, software more secure, then to that extent, we'll be optimizing at least our own environment. And with these few introductory words, now may I request Mr. Ramandeep Singh, who is Head Systems Engineering India and SAARC countries, so that gives a little global perspective also, Raman. And may I request you to kindly enlighten us with your presentation?
Sure. Thank you very much, the session chair and the enlightened audience. I would request the hospitality staff to just manage something on the podium because I'm seeing some stuff in not getting presented. May I have somebody from the AV staff to just help me out? Yeah, I don't know where the presentation is.
Oh, can someone please load the presentation?
Yeah, okay, I could. Thank you, thank you. I'll manage, Mona, thank you.
See, you're so effective. No? You're just
Yep.
the podium and find it.
Good. Yeah, so we've heard about the opening few statements by the chair for this session, and as we all know that security is about bringing something which is there in the subconscious mind, to analyze and assess the risk, and then bringing it to the conscious mind so that we can understand that what we are supposed to mitigate and what we are carrying as a risk depending upon our cost and the budgets and so many other things. Now, what we are going to talk about is the right balance, which is the reason why the word optimization has been chosen. Because there is no definition. Security is like a requirement which never ends. So you keep on adding and adding and adding as many layers as you feel, because there is a mix of certain realizable risk which we have seen in the past in the retrospect, and there's some risk which we just believe that it might happen or might not happen. So we have to be prepared for the unknown risk which we are carrying. So the most important thing which comes is that what is that we need to do to make the investments as well as decisions on deploying the security to be optimal from two perspectives. One is the cost and another is the user experience. Now, I understand when at the 6 a.m. in the morning I have to take a flight from Bangalore to Delhi, there is a chaos at the airport. Not just because there is an issue, but there are so many flights, but the infrastructure of security that is managing that what should be allowed inside is not that extensive. So we have to see as to what exactly we are trying to protect and how much protection we are supposed to give is the reason why I have put in this first slide. All is this governed by, in the current scenario of technology, the proliferation of what we are seeing on the podium now. So you can see that there is a proliferation of collaborative application, there is a proliferation of P2P applications, there is a proliferation of gadgets, right from tablets to iPhones to different kinds of micro books and the notebooks and the netbooks. The word never ends. There's something new comes every year as to being incorporated into the security framework of the computing. So when this is the scenario, and these are the applications which we are seeing on the dais screen proliferating, we need to be evolving in understanding that yes, there is a risk which is being hovering around these applications. And I like to take a very simple personal example. A few years back, I would say about 1.5 decades back, I got a phone at my house, and that was a rotor dialer phone. And all of us, in this generation must have seen, and now the current generation doesn't have the opportunity to see a rotor dialer phone. And one of my aunt came from a very remote village of Punjab, and first time she got a call on that phone, and she used the phone in an opposite direction. So she was having a mouthpiece in her ear, and she was having an earphone on the mouth. So that's how she listened the call. And she was asking my name, and then she said, "Ede chata awaaz hi nahi aa rahi," which means, she's not able to hear, is what she said in my native language. So this is the experience which I have at about 1.5 decade back. Then last year when I was traveling to her town, I saw that when I reached her home, and she was chit-chatting with my cousins on the Skype, sitting in front of the mic, and there is a very high-end broadband connection from BSNL, which is working fine, and she's chit-chatting with a headphone on the top of it. So this is the technology diversification which has reached to the roots of the individual people. But when that's where the proliferation goes, are such kind of workforce, are such kind of citizens or the netizens of our country feeling the risk which they are carrying because of they being the soft targets. And this is being understood by some survey which Checkpoint has done with our enterprise customers, and then I'll go to the non-enterprise customers to get you the actual perspective. When we did a survey along with a third party called Ponemon with the top 2,000 companies, 44% of the respondents felt that they have been a victim of a SQL injection. About 35% of them, they felt that they have been a victim of APT. You know, it's a big jargon. I will demystify that. It's called as advanced persistent threat. The threat which is unlike virus. Virus is given an intelligence, and that intelligence ends with either crashing a floppy drive or crashing a hard disk or giving a blue screen on the machine, or just compromising the memory leaks and so many things. This is the end journey and the objective of the virus. But advanced persistent threat doesn't have that objective. Advanced persistent threat says that I will compromise this machine, but I will not kill this machine. Why? Because I will have to use this machine as a soldier to kill somebody else. So that's the objective of current generation advanced persistent threats. And when they start moving with each other, they are called as botnets. So if you see the fourth circle on the extreme right when you are facing the screen is called as botnet. I'll come to the third one later. So therefore, there are organizations who are having a victim or who have been a victim of advanced persistent threats and who have been the victim of botnets. When my own computing base is used to kill my own resources like my portals, like my e-governance applications, framework, etc., then I can be considered that I am a victim of advanced persistent threat because it was targeted to my organization. But when my computing base, which means my employees, my users who are using laptops, computers of my organization, and they have been a victim of becoming the army of somebody who's sitting outside the network, and this army is used to compromise somebody third party, which could be inside my country, inside my organization, or outside. So then this becomes a botnet community. So therefore, these are the two different kinds of threats, and we can have some more discussions tomorrow on this. And last but not the least, we all know that when the setup is on the denial of service, when the users want to book a ticket at 8 a.m. in the morning using IRCTC website, and I have to leave for my hometown on Diwali, and the ticket is not getting booked because I am getting a repetitive error of not being able to conclude the transaction, I feel very bad. So that's what exactly is the experience by the virtue of DDoS. Now connecting it to now that was an enterprise analysis. Now I connect it to the very common people analysis as well, because we have to handle both as an enterprise and also our citizens who just interact with these applications. So this is a survey which has been picked up, which says that in the current times, the malware or the injections which are basically used to kill the IT infrastructure, they are 3 times more on the holy sites than they have been seen on the porn sites. This is the understanding, which means people know that there is a proliferation of the community which is moving and watching more and more on the internet. So how can they use and get the soft targets to become their victims? 20% of the blogs have seen the infections in 2011. And in 2011, the average growth in the malware has been predicted around 81% between year 2010 to year 2011. And I'm sure that very soon, in the next couple of months, year 2012 statistics will be also out, and what we are predicting it to be around 78 to 80% again. So that's what exactly is the scenario. So as an evangelist, it's my job to make sure that yes, when we are communicating the message, this is what we understand as a community. Attackers may find it easier to get through the infrastructure, not by compromising your data center or perimeter, but by using all these soft targets who have been collaborating with our applications by the virtue of smartphones, by the virtue of gadgets, or any other form factors which we see as the endpoint of communication. So what should I do as a next? So let's not be in despair. Let's not feel that yes, it's a gloomy picture. But the idea of putting all these slides is to make you aware. It's always good to know that what's the kind of risk we are carrying. So what we should be doing next, we should be actually breaking down the understanding of current problem in two different ways. You know, when we go to a doctor, there is one which is called as a clinical opinion, and there is another thing which is called as a diagnostic opinion, you know, which comes with the radiologist or so forth and so forth. So what I am going to show first is a clinical view, the view which is shown from the surface. From the surface, to understand an attack, let's break down this attack into three different formats. And understand that the step one of the current generation attack is to find the soft targets. Two, once these targets are identified, what should be done next is to kill them. Is to get a control of them. Sorry, not to kill them, get the control of them. And then become and make them the army of a black hat guy. And the last step in this entire process is to use these soldiers to compromise somebody else. I'll give you a very simple example. If 500 people in the morning decide that they have to book a Tatkal ticket, we all can understand that they may not have a legitimate objective, but they decide just to hog the resources. So this is the kind of a collateral workforce which works together as the computing base available on the net, and the hacker does not need to invest into his own CPU, his own memory, to be so diverse to attack somebody which can be, 50,000 requests in a minute, or maybe 1 lakh requests in an hour, so on and so forth. So this is the clinical view of identifying a current threat. And how it starts, if we have to break it down, the first step to identify the problem is to do a phishing. We have been seeing that we have been getting messages on our mobile phones or in the mails that you have won 75,000 pounds, please call on this number. Correct? Something similar messages comes to us. So that's called as spamming. That's called as spear phishing. That once you click on something wrongly by mistake, you are being taken to something which is inviting you to be a victim of a problem. And that's what is called as the first step of the issue. And then once somebody reaches there, in the technological terms, it is called as a drive-by download issue. So your browser downloads something which is not right, which is not wise for the computing. And in the content, you might find some injection being done there to infect your machines as the host infection. Then the objective of that first infection is to guide the second infection to come to your machines. So it acts as a guide to the next step. And that's what is called as connecting to the command and control, which is standing outside. He is a commander. The first infection has led to establish a connection with that guy. And that guy now takes this machine to the next step. And that step is called as making this host totally undetectable. And the technology word for that is FUD, fully undetectable. So if you Google FUD, this is what you get as an answer. Fully undetectable. So now the black hat guy who's sitting outside, or an attacker, he has made this machine to have the second level of infection, which is undetectable by a local antivirus or any other security tool which you would have employed or deployed on this machine. Next comes the final target. The mission is to get the data out, and that's what has happened with Lockheed Martin or with Sony last year. Or to launch an attack in the nuclear power plant. That's what has happened to Iranian nuclear power plant in late 2010. But the entire journey starts with the first and second step of the attack. And we all know that today, all our lives depend upon the IT. Not just because that I have to do the e-governance, but each form factor, if we see, right from morning at 6 a.m. when we wake up till we sleep, right from the supply of water which comes to give me a water, for drinking or for doing a brushing, and to the electricity, to the mobile phone, and to the availability of transportation, everything comes with the virtue or by the virtue of computing today. So all this is very important. So what an enterprise and organization should do to prevent themselves. Now, when a doctor has to take a treatment, he has to then take a diagnostic opinion of the issue. And this is the diagnostic opinion now coming from the attack's perspective. This is a diagnostic view that the attack is not just the 3-step as clinically being examined, but technologically being examined, it is 5-step problem. It starts technologically with doing a reconnaissance. Then the second step technically means it will do a exploiting of the weakness. And the third step is connecting to the command and control. And the fourth step is now sit very, very silently. And that's what is technically also called as pivoting. And there is another version of pivoting or another step of pivoting, and that's a spread the infection laterally. Make more similar hosts in my own lateral network. And last but not the least is the actual lethal attack. That is either in the form of distributed denial of service or compromising some host or making some other version of the attack which can even not be thought of today. So this is the 5-step technical process which has to be taken by any threat vector to achieve his end objective. So if you see, it's an inverted pyramid shown on the screen. And the objective of this is that if we have to compromise one single machine that was communicating to a Siemens centrifugation machine to do a nuclear transportation from a raw material to the machine which was required for moderators to do a nuclear generation of the power, there is only one machine which was communicating with that Siemens machine from a computing or a IP world's perspective. How to infect that machine sitting in the nuclear power plant was the objective of the Western world when they were targeting Iranian nuclear program. So what they did, they had to infect so many millions of USB drives, and that's what is called as reconnaissance. Then after reconnaissance, they have to compromise those reconnaissance resources. Everybody who has been reconnaissed doesn't mean he's available as a weakness. So weakness will be available with some less number of people who have been reconnaissed. Then the exploitation will happen with further lesser number of the people who have been seen as a weakness. Then after the exploitation, lesser number of people will be able to communicate with the command and control. And that's how this pyramid is shrinking. But as it shrinks, it becomes more tougher for the enterprise to handle this. So what we should be doing? We have to have a multi-spectrum strategy to handle this. We have to start working right from the pre-infection. By putting an IPS firewall and so other controls doesn't mean that let's enjoy our autopilot state now. We have to have a very strong detection mechanism. So therefore it is very important that our tools, which thus far are meant for prevention, should also give a very valid detection. They should give us time to react. Then if we see that we have been infected, we have some traces of issue, then we should be able to kill that issue, which is malware or a bot. Last but not the least, we still will see one incident that may try to leak the data out or may try to do a DDoS. So then we have to prevent that layer as well. So how it starts technically, you have to have the very basic layers. That is intrusion, prevention, anti-malware, anti-spam and anti-bot to take care of pre-infection stage. But let us not believe that we are in autopilot after having deployed these tools. What we need, we also need a tool which will avoid our users to go to malware-centric sites. So despite having those threat prevention tools, we should also have the URL filtering or an applications control tools, because that sometimes gets ignored in the threat prevention strategy. Whereas it is very, very important to even consider this, because most threats always take somebody to some malware site to download that malware. And that's how I have to prevent even that. So URL filtering today and application control doesn't mean that we have to have employee control to not to go them this side, that side. That's not the current objective. It is equally participative in preventing the threat. Then it has to be enhanced with the final and the very important technology called as a dashboard. So you should be able to see a dashboard of risk. The visibility is equally important, and that's what I mean by detection. Your users or the operations team should not feel that now I have a firewall, I have an IPS, I have a DDoS protector, I should be very safe. It doesn't mean like that. You have to have a very, very strong and an intuitive dashboards. Last but not the least, preventing the data. So for data prevention, you need to have the data leak prevention tools. You need to have other components called as preventing the DDoS by network flood, server flood, for application attacks and low and slow attacks. So this is the two last stages of the attack, that's data leak or doing a DDoS. So we need to have the appropriate prevention controls in this space. Now, this is the only product slide from Checkpoint. To handle all this, we have all form factors of appliances, starting from a data center or a small office, which is catering to 5 users, 10 users, 20 users, your kiosk only, to your district offices, to block division offices, or to your state data centers or any other larger formats of data. We have devices today to take care of all these needs. And they are the most, in the industry, for this space of security, they are the most efficient as far as the energy is concerned. So the power requirements and heating output is minimal as far as any other equivalent solutions concerned. So I come to the summary of my wrap-up of this session. So this is what we have understood. The first stage of attack is recon, that is reconnaissance. So there are two tools which have to be there, that is firewall and IPS, to prevent this stage, as well as to detect this stage. Intrusion, and both the access has to be prevented in the inward direction of your network. Then to prevent the exploitation from happening in your network, you also have to have an IPS tuned to handle the exploitations, and you need to have the URL filtering and anti-spam tools to handle that the weaknesses in your network should not get compromised. Then you have to see command and control communication and pivoting is a very complex dual stage of the attack. It needs to be prevented by 3 different components, that is anti-bot, Web 2.0 controls, because our current day applications like Facebook, Twitter, they are very, very intelligent. They are not simple URL. They cannot be prevented and detected so easily. So you need to have awareness in the Web 2.0 world. And last but not the least, you have to have zero-day malware prevention, which is morphing malware handling and so many other things. Final stage of the attack was a lethal attack. And for this, you need to have a DLP which prevents the egress, that is data going out of your organization, and a DDoS protector to get into the network. So this brings me to the very important understanding, and I would like to share with you that the situation always puts us into the question where to start and what to do and what to analyze. For that, we have a very interesting free of cost tool available to you. You can always register on indiasales@checkpoint.com, or you can give a mail to me, ramandeep@checkpoint.com, or we can be having any networking session discussions to register yourself. So whatever you have seen in the 5 stages of attack, if it is actually happening in your network, despite having all the security controls, we will do that, and the detection can start at any time, and you can get a first view of that within a couple of hours of having deployed that. It is absolutely non-intrusive. You don't need to re-engineer your traffic flow. It will come absolutely out of your flow of the data, so no applications will come we will not put anything which will come in the path of your application delay. You can put it in your data center, you can put it into your aggregation points, or anywhere where you feel that it will give you a visibility. If you want a report, we can always share that report with you. We are carrying some hard copy of that. We have not just given to everybody. Anybody who is interested in that, just please contact us. We are going to be there. I am there. Then we have 3 of my colleagues from Checkpoint, and we have our government and distributor partner Presto here. So there are 2 very senior people from their organization here. So you can touch base with any 6 of us during the networking sessions. Thank you very much.
Mr. Ramandeep, thank you very much indeed, because I think this exactly was the expectation from the audience on the session. And in terms of users ourselves, or looking after the IT network and set up an organization, these are exactly the concerns which bother us. And to put it in a very simple way, you have to make an investment in antivirus, and you wonder, okay, how much money should I spend? And you hit the nail right on the head, that you have to really estimate as to what is the value of your network, your data, how much money you like to spend on that. And then, because after all, you have to see a rate of return on whatever action you do. So thank you very much. And I'm sure the audience would have some clarifications or further information to request you. So may I ask the audience if they have any questions, if they could please ask Mr. Ramandeep. Mr. Bhal?
As a layperson, I would like to ask you, what goes behind the mind of a person who is trying to go through all these groups and extract data? What are the things who are
Okay, I'll repeat the question. Thank you, sir. The question being asked, I'll make I'll not be able to reword exactly, but I'll give you the gist of that. The question being asked is that, what is the intention of that individual or the group of individuals who are targeting our infrastructure?
Yes, sir.
Am I correct, sir? If that is the gist, thank you very much, sir, for acknowledging. Okay, so the answer to this is, see, the objective can be varied from a absolutely unthought idea, if I'll share an example, to a very the very close objective which we can understand is to start with, because we are a government and a very important governance infrastructure. So the first target comes from our state-sponsored criminalism. So there are vested interests who exist on both sides of our boundaries of the country, who have the reasons to compromise our infrastructure. So that's where the funding comes from. So that's one of the objectives, which is called as state-sponsored cyber criminalism. The second set of the people are the group of people which you might have heard about the recent times. It's called as the anonymous set of group of people. They are the revolutionists of the day. I'm sorry for not being able to pronounce that word properly. They want to carry their revolutionary ideas. They want to reverberate. Let's take a Anna Hazare movement. That was a physical revolution. So if there has to be an equivalent IT revolution on the government infrastructure, today I don't need to burn a bus. Today I don't need to go and get antivirus. This is the best thing I can do to affect and impact the government. So that can be a second set of objectives, which is absolutely not driven by any money, but it's driven by those current generation ideas. And they collaborate very, very well today. The third thing is obviously the money behind the private entities. So I'll give a very interesting example. Just bear me for 2 minutes, sir. It's a very interesting example. There were two Hollywood stars who had a movie coming on the same day. Their respective movie, we also have seen a similar, media-centric issue around Diwali time. So it was a similar situation in Hollywood about 1.5 years ago. So one of the guys thought that let me capsize the objective of the other guy. So what he did, he hired a botnet which was having 75,000 PCs, for example, and was available on rent. So this guy, what he did, he said, go to every booking which is done on the net, and we all know that US always have a booking 100% to be done on the net today. They don't go and buy the tickets on the counter. It's very rare. So what they were doing, and every booking we know that there is a time of about 8 minutes to 10 minutes. We always have seen, if we try to book a Jet Airways or a Kingfisher Airlines or Air India ticket, they always say your booking time is 10 minutes. So you complete the entire transaction in 10 minutes. So till that 10 minutes, that means one seat is allocated to this user. So that's how the 75,000 requests were coming in round robin. And what happened on the day one in the entire state of California, there was not even a single legitimate user watching the movie. So you can understand the damage, and we all know that today in the current world of media, people see how many crores of money has been taken on the day one itself, correct? And that's also guide the entire flow of the movie. So this is what is a absolutely unthought, you cannot even think in the imagination somebody who's used this as an objective. Did I answer your question, sir? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, sir, you had a question. Any other question?
Hear me? When he was asking any question, I had a temptation to say, have you understood it? Because people don't understand why would they ask questions. I'll not make any very inquisitive or high-ended comments. Very simple ones I would say. When the nature created human being, he was very careful and he was very socialist. He didn't create much of a difference between two human beings. And therefore problem wasn't much. There's a famous saying that the God has created men equal, but the Waverley's court has made them unequal. So moment anybody has got huge weaponry or huge technology, they become terribly unequal. Babur was able to vanquish Indian rulers because he had a superior topkhana. In modern times, in Iraq war, using drone and other trajectory weaponry, US was able to vanquish Middle World. So also in the field of technology, probably had there not been Google or modern technology or satellites, we wouldn't have cared for America. We are more snobbish than Americans are. And definitely in Jugaad matters, we are much more Jugadu. But using the modern advanced technology in almost all fields, be it IMF, be it World Bank, be it satellite issues, be it Google, be it weaponry, and anything for that matter, they are far ahead of us. And therefore, we as individual human being, or we as a nation, or in between we as an organization, have no choice but to adopt the latest competitive technology. For the companies to survive, or for nations to survive, earlier it was enough to recruit brave soldiers, or to recruit intelligent and brave civil servants, or to recruit gold medalist scientists. But now that is no more enough. Bravest of your soldier can be defeated if he doesn't have modern weaponry, and best of your civil servant would fail if he doesn't have support of the latest technological software and hardware. Therefore, my understanding in the government is we don't have a choice. And that's why most of the people sitting here are, I think, on the wrong side of 30 and 40 and 50. Doesn't have much of a choice. We have a competition from youngsters. We have competition from the smarter guys. We have competition from smarter companies across the globe. And therefore, each one of us, first we have to struggle to have the latest in our hand. And secondly, there's a saying, don't take me wrong, whoever marries a good-looking wife has to look after her throughout the life. So therefore, if we go for advanced technology, we have to guard and ensure that it is not taken away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ram, for very good advice. And no, I mean on a serious note, because you see, again referring to what he said about our mindset, that we would rather save a penny and take a huge risk. I mean, we rather subscribe to free antivirus than pay for it. Even when you pay for antivirus, you have 3-4 options of different levels of security. And you know, if you see the total investment in terms of your hardware, your software, the time you spend on the machine, the data you have, how much time it's going to take you to collect all that, then the 1,000 odd rupees you're going to pay for 1 year's license is actually not very much. And yet, 99% of us would really go for the free software that's available to us. So, you know, his flagging the whole issue and reminding us that, look, the threats and, you know, and Anand's comment as to what is the mindset and Mr. Ramandeep's response, to give a total picture of who are the people there who are after us. And gradually, as we become more and more dependent digitally, we become more and more open to risks. And therefore, you know, your comment that you really have to flag that and be aware, it's extremely important to protect yourself. And so don't take it lightly. Invest adequately and rationally, and maybe on the higher side, given the psyche of an average Indian, if you want to make yourself and your organization secure. So thank you very much, Mr. Ram, and thank you very much, Mr. Ramandeep, for it was indeed a session where I'm sure all of us benefited individually and collectively for our organizations and for the country too. Thank you.
Thank you to all the speakers. As a token of appreciation, we have we are going to present mementos to our speakers and the session chair. May I request my colleague to kindly come up on stage with the mementos? I request Mr. Ranjan Dwivedi to present a memento to Mr. Ramandeep Singh, Head Systems Engineering, India and SAARC countries, Checkpoint Software Technologies, for the detailed and wonderful presentation that he presented to us. Also, I would like Mr. Ranjan Dwivedi to kindly present a memento to Mr. K. Ram, who is the ADG, Intelligence Bureau of Jaipur. And I request Mr. K. Ram to present a memento to our session chair, Mr. Ranjan Dwivedi, UP Police. A huge round of applause for all the three speakers. Thank you, sir.